Now to IT-Mate, the case of Vaughx Booker has been resolved. You'll remember that he's a black man who claimed to be a victim of a hate crime in July of 2020. Tonight, we're learning the case was solved through restorative justice, where all charges were dropped. IT-Mate's Jasmine Miner is finding out this is a first. Jasmine.
Yeah, well, I talked to Lance Hamner, who was a judge on this case, and he tells me this is the first criminal case in Indiana that has been solved by restorative justice. He explains it's similar to mediation, where both parties get together and decide to move forward without the judicial process.
A grown-up way of just handling a case and taking it out of the court system.
As a judge, he says this was a first time for him.
They explained it to me as a kind of a new and innovative way to resolve cases that achieve all the goals of the criminal justice system, but it doesn't have to go through the full judicial process.
Lance Hamner says the attorneys for Vaughx Booker and those representing Sean Purdy and Jerry Cox, who Booker claimed were threatening him, said all parties have agreed to restorative justice. Purdy and Cox were originally charged with assaulting Booker. The incident happened on the 4th of July of 2020 at Lake Monroe in Bloomington, where Booker says Purdy and Cox attempted to lynch him. Booker was later on charged with battery and trespassing. Court documents show he had originally declined restorative justice.
People start to get mad. The reasoning starts to go down. After it's all been had a chance to cool down and people had a chance to think about it, reasoning starts to go back up. And that's when restorative justice can kick in, because then people can start thinking with their minds instead of with their emotions.
Records reveal Booker recently decided to re-enter in the restorative justice process, which means all charges for the case are now dropped, the case is resolved, and everyone can move on. The Center for Community Justice was the facilitator for this process in this case. They gave this statement to IT-Mate in part explaining, staff and volunteers at CCJ facilitate restorative processes that brings victims and offenders together to talk about the impact of the crime and create a plan for addressing the harm. They went on to say this work helps people get answers to lingering questions, find closure, offer and receive acknowledgement and apology, repair broken relationships, and overcome obstacles preventing them from living their lives to the fullest. Hamner says this process is something that saves a lot of expenses and resources in the justice system.
I was really impressed. And in fact, it's something that I want to look into. I'm in the process of running for prosecutor, and if I win that, that's something I want to look into even more.
I reached out to Booker to comment on the case and ask why he decided to re-enter the restorative justice process. He declined an interview, explaining he wanted to wait until he has something more substantial to provide. I'm Jasmine Miner for Vauxx TV, VauxxTV.com, and follow us on Facebook.